Alien woman marries a humble human. Unaware that he secretly loved her for 10 years, the space station floated silently in the endless black of the sector, a hub of trade and diplomacy where beings from dozens of worlds mingled. Bright lights reflected off the metal corridors, and the hum of engines mixed with chatter in countless alien languages. Kale, a human trader of modest means, moved through the crowds with quiet attention. He was not a tall man nor especially strong, but there was a calmness in his movements that made him appear observant and careful. His eyes constantly scanned the crowd, taking in every detail, yet he never drew attention to himself. For 10 years, Kale had admired Lyria from a distance. She was an alien woman from a noble family, elegant, intelligent, and commanding in her presence. Many tried to impress her, offering gifts, flattery, or elaborate gestures, but Kale had never sought recognition. Instead, he quietly aided her whenever possible, ensuring her shipments were safe, smoothing over minor conflicts in her travels, and leaving helpful notes that might make her day easier. No one knew of his dedication, not even Lyria herself. Today, he was here on routine business, delivering rare minerals to a nearby colony when he saw her. Lyria moved gracefully through the busy corridor, her tall figure drawing the eyes of everyone nearby. Her silver-blue skin shimmered slightly in the station lights, and her eyes carried an intelligence and confidence that few could match. Kale felt the familiar tug in his chest, a mix of admiration and longing. He had watched her over the years, protecting her in small ways, always hoping to remain unnoticed, yet always wishing to be close to her in some way. A commotion erupted a few meters ahead. A group of thugs attempted to block Lyria's path, demanding her cargo. The men were large, their gestures threatening. Kale did not hesitate. He moved closer, calculating the safest way to intervene without drawing unnecessary attention. He stepped between her and the thugs, holding his hands slightly raised, speaking in a calm voice. "There is no need for trouble here. Move along before anyone gets hurt." The thugs laughed, underestimating the human's quiet presence. One of them stepped forward, but Kale's steady gaze made him pause. There was no arrogance in Kale, no desire to prove himself. There was only careful determination. His presence, his calmness, and the precision of his movements made the would-be attackers reconsider. With a few well-timed words and the sense of quiet authority he carried, the thugs eventually backed away, muttering curses, and left the corridor. Lyria, who had watched the scene unfold, raised an eyebrow. "You handle yourself well," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. There was no accusation, only curiosity. Kale inclined his head respectfully. "I only ensure your safety, that is all." She regarded him silently for a moment, surprised by his modesty. Most humans she had encountered were brash, loud, or desperate to prove themselves. Kale, in contrast, was humble, yet competent. She wondered why someone so capable chose to remain in the shadows, unnoticed. She did not yet know that he had been quietly aiding her for a decade, always ensuring her well-being without ever seeking credit. The corridor returned to normal as people moved past them, continuing their business. Lyria gathered her belongings, preparing to continue her negotiations with another trade delegation. Kale offered a small nod and moved to the side, allowing her passage. His heart, however, beat faster than he wished anyone could notice. Every encounter with her stirred memories of 10 years of admiration, of every small action he had taken to protect and support her. As they traveled together through the station, a sudden alert sounded. A section of the station's lower deck had suffered a malfunction, and several shipments were at risk. Lyria's next negotiation involved rare, delicate materials, and a delay could cost her reputation with allied planets. Without a word, Kale offered his assistance. He led a small team to secure the area, navigating maintenance corridors that were narrow, dimly lit, and unfamiliar to most of the station's visitors. Lyria followed, watching him work. There was an ease to Kale's movements, a quiet efficiency that belied his modest appearance. He carefully coordinated the workers, checked every mechanism, and ensured that the shipments were stable. No one else seemed capable of handling the situation so calmly, yet Kale did not pause to take credit. He simply performed the work and ensured the outcome was successful. When the emergency was over, Lyria looked at him with genuine surprise. "You handled that flawlessly," she said. "How did you learn to do that?" Kale smiled faintly. "Experience, observation, and a desire to be helpful, nothing more." She tilted her head, considering him. There was an honesty in his words, a lack of pretense that she found unusual in humans. The rest of the day passed with tense negotiations and diplomatic meetings. Kale stayed near, helping in small but significant ways, passing messages, arranging schedules, ensuring that her attention remained focused on the discussions rather than logistical problems. Lyria began to notice how reliable he was, how his presence reduced her stress without demanding recognition. There was a subtle power in his humility, a strength she had not expected to find in a human. That evening, as the station lights dimmed to simulate night, Lyria found herself walking along an observation deck that overlooked the stars. She did not know why, but she felt compelled to be alone, to process the day's events. Kale appeared at her side, not as an intrusion but as a quiet companion. He spoke softly, pointing out constellations she had never noticed, sharing minor facts about nearby planets and trade routes. His voice was gentle, and his knowledge practical yet insightful. Lyria realized she was listening more attentively than she had expected. Humans were often underestimated for their simple ways, but Kale demonstrated a combination of patience, intelligence, and loyalty that even her alien peers struggled to embody. She found herself wondering about his life, his motivations, and the quiet devotion that she now sensed in his actions. Kale, meanwhile, remained careful. He did not reveal his true feelings, though his heart ached to do so. 10 years of admiration had taught him the value of patience. He had watched her grow, observed her triumphs and challenges, and quietly ensured her safety and success. Now, as they stood together in the soft glow of the station lights, he allowed himself a moment to hope that perhaps one day she might see him as more than a humble human trader. The station's automated systems chimed, signaling the end of the observation period. Lyria turned toward the interior, her mind still occupied with thoughts of the human who had quietly influenced her day. Kale walked beside her, unassuming yet fully aware of the significance of each step. Their journey together had only just begun, but already a foundation of trust and understanding was forming. Even in a galaxy filled with beings of incredible power and wealth, Kale's quiet strength and enduring dedication stood out. Lyria did not yet understand the depth of his feelings, nor did she know how many years he had devoted to protecting her from afar. But the small actions, the careful interventions, and the steadfast presence of this humble human were beginning to make an impression, one that would shape the events to come in ways neither of them could yet predict. By the time they returned to her quarters, Lyria found herself reflecting on the day. She had survived potential threats, navigated complex negotiations, and discovered a new ally in an unexpected form. Kale, without seeking praise or reward, had ensured her success and safety. She could not deny that she felt a subtle shift in her perception of humans, and particularly of this one human who had quietly made such a difference in her life. As she prepared to rest, Lyria glanced at Kale one last time. He was already tending to minor duties, checking shipments, and ensuring everything was in order. There was no grand gesture, no speech of devotion, just quiet, dependable care. And somehow that seemed more remarkable than any display of power or wealth she had encountered. Kale, standing in the shadows of the room, allowed himself a small sigh of relief. The day had gone well, and though Lyria remained unaware of his decade-long admiration, he had taken another step closer to earning her trust and respect. In a galaxy full of spectacular displays, wars, and political intrigue, Kale understood that true influence came not from power or position, but from quiet, persistent care, the kind of care that could last a lifetime. As the station lights dimmed and the stars outside sparkled, both human and alien drifted into rest. For Lyria, it was a night of reflection, curiosity, and a growing sense of admiration. For Kale, it was a night of hope, patience, and quiet fulfillment, knowing that his journey of devotion had only just begun, and that the future held opportunities for trust, understanding, and perhaps, one day, love. The morning sun streamed through the large observation windows of the space station, casting long streaks of light across the metallic floors. Lyria was already awake, walking along the corridors with her usual grace and poise. Today, she had a series of negotiations with traders and diplomats from nearby star systems. Her schedule was tight, and her mind was focused on her duties, but Kale quietly followed, ensuring her path was smooth and free from unnecessary obstacles. Kale moved with calm awareness, observing the environment and anticipating potential issues before they could arise. He helped manage the transport of her supplies, coordinated the timing of various meetings, and even discreetly checked the stability of her shuttle. These were small tasks, almost invisible to anyone else, yet they made a noticeable difference in Lyria's experience. She had begun to notice his presence more consciously, though she still did not fully understand the depth of his attention and care. As they prepared for the first meeting of the day, Kale noticed Lyria frowning over a communication device. A minor dispute had erupted between two trading delegations. Each party was confident they were in the right, and the discussion threatened to become tense. Without hesitation, Kale quietly approached, speaking softly so only Lyria could hear. "Allow me to assist," he said. He suggested a solution that respected both parties' needs and minimized friction. Lyria followed his advice, presenting it as her own decision, and the disagreement was quickly resolved. She glanced at him briefly, a mixture of surprise and curiosity on her face. "You seem to understand these situations better than most of my advisors," she said. Kale only smiled faintly, shrugging. "I have observed carefully over the years. Sometimes experience teaches more than titles or rank." Lyria's eyes lingered on him for a moment longer than usual, considering the unusual human standing beside her. Throughout the day, Kale continued to assist without drawing attention. When Lyria needed to reference complex data about trade routes, he quietly provided the necessary information. When a shipment risked delay due to a minor technical malfunction, he calmly fixed it without any fuss. Even the minor irritations of alien bureaucracy, confusing forms, inconsistent protocols, and stubborn officials, were smoothed by his quiet diligence. Each action reinforced an unspoken truth. Kale's reliability was extraordinary, and yet entirely understated. During a midday break, Lyria walked alone along the observation deck, reflecting on the events of the morning. Kale followed, not intrusively, but close enough to be present if needed. She found herself talking aloud as though processing her thoughts in his presence could provide clarity. "Humans are interesting," she murmured. "I had thought them simple, limited in vision, but perhaps I was mistaken." Kale listened, allowing a small, respectful smile. "Humans have limitations, yes, but also unexpected strengths. Sometimes the quiet ones make the most difference." His words were careful, gentle, yet filled with sincerity. Lyria considered him, seeing in his demeanor a combination of patience, intelligence, and empathy that she had not encountered in other species. For the first time, she began to appreciate the human quality of steadfastness. Their next negotiation took them to the bustling markets of a nearby planet. Alien traders from multiple star systems crowded the streets, selling exotic goods, technology, and rare materials. Lyria navigated the complex interactions with practiced skill, but Kale remained attentive to her needs. He managed the flow of people, ensured her safety, and observed potential risks. He even mediated minor disputes between traders, using quiet persuasion to avoid conflict. His presence allowed Lyria to focus on her negotiations without distraction. During a particularly complex trade involving delicate energy crystals, an unexpected problem arose. The crystals were highly sensitive, and mishandling them could ruin the deal. Kale stepped forward calmly, taking careful measures to stabilize the situation. He worked methodically, adjusting containment fields and coordinating the handlers. Lyria watched in amazement as the human handled the delicate materials with precision and care, preventing disaster without drawing attention to himself. Once the deal was completed successfully, Lyria turned to him, her expression unreadable. "How do you manage such difficult tasks so calmly?" she asked. Kale's response was simple and honest. "I focus on the task, not on the attention it brings. Success comes from care and patience, not from showing off." Lyria found herself studying him more closely, noticing the quiet confidence and dedication in his demeanor. There was a strength in humility, she realized, one that contrasted sharply with the flamboyance she often saw in her own people. Later, as the evening approached, Lyria and Kale returned to the station for a scheduled debrief. The corridors were less crowded now, and the soft hum of the engines filled the air. Lyria paused near a window, looking out at the stars scattered across the black expanse. Kale joined her silently, not pressing for conversation but simply offering company. For a while they stood in quiet observation. Lyria reflected on the day, the challenges she faced, the solutions found, and the presence of the human who had quietly ensured her success. She realized that she had relied on him more than she had noticed, and that his calm, steady guidance had prevented numerous complications. Yet she still did not know the full extent of his dedication, the 10 years of unseen care and vigilance that had shaped the safety and success of her journeys. Kale finally spoke softly, pointing to a distant star cluster. "That system has an unusual alignment today. It is said to bring clarity to decisions if one observes it closely." His tone was neutral, yet thoughtful, reflecting his desire to offer insight without imposing. Lyria followed his gaze, considering the stars and the human beside her. She could feel a subtle warmth in his presence, a sense of reassurance that she had not anticipated. Over the next few days, Kale's quiet guidance continued. He assisted with travel arrangements, mediated minor conflicts, and ensured that Lyria's work remained uninterrupted. Each action was small on its own, but collectively they created a sense of stability and calm. Lyria began to notice patterns, to appreciate the reliability and consistency that Kale brought into her life. It was a stark contrast to the flashy, dramatic gestures she often encountered from others seeking favor or attention. During one evening observation, Lyria finally allowed herself to ask a personal question. "Kale, why do you do all of this? Why do you involve yourself in my affairs so consistently?" Kale hesitated, carefully considering his words. "I value your success and well-being," he replied simply. "I have observed you for many years and learned that helping can make a difference. I do not seek recognition. I only wish to support." Lyria studied him, sensing the truth in his voice. There was no pretense, no expectation of reward, only genuine concern and care. She realized that in a galaxy filled with political games, social hierarchies, and powerful figures, there existed a being who acted with quiet honesty and dedication. It was a revelation that challenged her assumptions about humans and about the kind of loyalty and strength they could possess. As the days turned into weeks, Lyria and Kale's partnership deepened. They worked together on increasingly complex missions, from delicate trade negotiations to coordinating aid for colonies in need. Kale's resourcefulness and calm reasoning continued to impress her. Lyria found herself relying on him not out of necessity alone, but because she had come to trust and respect his judgment. There were moments of subtle connection that neither could ignore. A shared glance during a successful negotiation, a small gesture of understanding when one of them faced a challenge, a word of encouragement when tension ran high. These moments slowly built a bridge between them. Lyria could feel the human's quiet devotion growing into something more significant, though she did not yet comprehend the full extent of it. Kale, meanwhile, remained patient. He had spent 10 years observing, protecting, and admiring Lyria from afar. He had learned that trust and respect could not be forced, only earned through consistent actions and quiet dedication. Each day brought him closer to the possibility of being seen not only as a helpful companion, but as someone worthy of deeper affection. One evening, after another successful mission, they found themselves resting in a quiet lounge overlooking a nebula. The colors shifted and shimmered across the dark expanse, casting a soft glow over the room. Lyria watched the display in silence, feeling an unexpected sense of calm and comfort. Kale remained nearby, ready to assist if needed, but content to simply share the moment with her. In that quiet space, Lyria reflected on the days spent with him. She realized that his presence had become important to her, not because of grand gestures or power, but because of his steady reliability and unassuming support. She began to understand that sometimes the most remarkable beings were not the ones who displayed strength or wealth, but those who quietly made a difference in the lives of others. Kale, observing her thoughtful expression, allowed himself a small, hopeful smile. The journey had only just begun, but he had already taken the first steps in earning her trust and admiration. He knew the road ahead would require patience, understanding, and consistent care, but he was willing to walk it, step by step, alongside the woman he had quietly loved for 10 years. As the nebula shifted and stars twinkled beyond the station's windows, both human and alien felt a subtle shift in their connection. It was not yet love openly acknowledged, but it was something stronger than mere companionship, a sense of reliability, trust, and unspoken understanding. And in the vast expanse of the galaxy, that foundation was more powerful than any display of wealth, status, or influence. The next mission took Lyria and Kale to the planet Vera, a world known for its rich trade networks and vibrant marketplaces. The planet's surface shimmered with iridescent lakes, towering crystal structures, and bustling cities. It was a hub for interstellar commerce, and Lyria's presence here was vital to maintaining her influence and ensuring her people's interests were protected. Kale followed closely, as always, ensuring the logistics of travel and the safety of her journey. He handled docking procedures, coordinated ground transport, and quietly observed the surroundings for potential complications. Lyria had begun to notice, more than before, how much he contributed to the smoothness of every journey, yet she still did not fully grasp the depth of his dedication. Their first negotiation on Vera involved a consortium of alien merchants who specialized in rare minerals used for advanced technology. The negotiation room was ornate, with floating displays and holographic data streams. Lyria moved confidently among the merchants, using her intelligence and charm to guide discussions. Kale observed from the sidelines, prepared to intervene if needed, but always in a subtle, unobtrusive way. A tense moment arose when one merchant questioned the authenticity of her cargo. Their voice was sharp, accusing, and carried the weight of influence. Lyria remained calm, presenting her documentation and certifications. Kale noticed a small discrepancy in the holographic data being used by the merchants, a minor error that could easily mislead her. Quietly, he signaled to her, providing the correct information and suggesting a subtle phrasing that would clarify the situation without causing conflict. Lyria followed his advice, and the dispute was resolved smoothly. She looked at him afterward, curiosity mingling with appreciation. "You notice things others miss," she said. Kale nodded politely. "Observation and patience often reveal what others overlook. I only wish to assist." His words were simple, but Lyria sensed an underlying consistency, a steadfastness that she could rely on. It was rare in a galaxy filled with self-interest and ambition. After the negotiations, they walked through Vera's central marketplace. Merchants called out their wares in melodic alien languages, and the sense of exotic foods filled the air. Lyria paused at a stall displaying delicate energy crystals. She examined them with interest, and Kale stood nearby, silently ensuring that no interference occurred from opportunistic traders. A small crowd had gathered, curious about the presence of a prominent alien diplomat. Lyria engaged in conversation with the crowd, answering questions and sharing knowledge about her culture. Kale stayed near, ready to assist, but allowed her to take the spotlight. He did not need recognition. His satisfaction came from ensuring her experience was smooth and successful. Later, as they returned to their quarters, Lyria reflected on the day. She realized how often Kale had acted in ways that made her life easier, smoother, and safer. Yet he never sought acknowledgement. Most beings in her world would have expected reward, title, or praise for such contributions. Kale, in contrast, acted out of genuine care and diligence. This observation stirred a new level of respect in her heart, though she did not yet recognize the affection he had harbored for a decade. The following day brought a more challenging assignment. Lyria had to attend a conference with representatives from multiple star systems, discussing the equitable distribution of newly discovered resources. The conference was crucial. The wrong decision could strain alliances and damage reputations. Kale prepared meticulously, checking schedules, compiling relevant data, and offering subtle advice on the political nuances of each delegate. During the conference, a delicate disagreement arose between two factions over resource allocation. The discussion became heated, and tension filled the room. Kale observed quietly, analyzing each argument and noting subtle signs of potential compromise. He provided Lyria with suggestions in whispered tones, guiding her through the conversation without overshadowing her authority. She followed his cues carefully, and the factions eventually reached a compromise that pleased all parties. Lyria noticed how effortlessly Kale navigated complex situations, balancing observation, strategy, and humility. Unlike other advisors who sought credit or used cunning for personal gain, Kale's actions were pure and selfless. She began to realize that his presence was more than helpful, it was transformative. He enhanced her abilities without undermining her authority, providing support that strengthened her position and confidence. As the conference concluded, Lyria and Kale stepped onto a balcony overlooking Vera's cityscape. The city lights glimmered like scattered stars, and the gentle hum of activity created a soothing rhythm. Lyria turned to Kale, her expression thoughtful. "I do not know how to explain it, but your assistance today was remarkable. You see the small details that make all the difference." Kale bowed his head slightly. "I observe carefully. Small actions often have large consequences. My intention is only to help." Lyria found herself smiling faintly. She had grown accustomed to humans being straightforward, sometimes to the point of simplicity, but Kale's quiet competence challenged that notion. There was intelligence, foresight, and unwavering dedication behind his calm demeanor. She had begun to appreciate these qualities in ways she had never expected. During the evening, Lyria and Kale prepared to attend a formal banquet hosted by the Planetary Council. The event was a blend of diplomacy, culture, and ceremonial tradition. Lyria, dressed in her formal attire, moved with elegance through the hall, exchanging polite words with dignitaries from numerous worlds. Kale followed unobtrusively, ensuring her comfort and safety without intruding on her interactions. At one point, a minor mishap occurred. An alien official accidentally spilled a ceremonial drink near Lyria's chair. Kale reacted instantly, moving to stabilize the situation before it escalated. He offered a calm, practical solution, diffusing potential embarrassment and maintaining decorum. Lyria, noticing his swift action, felt a subtle sense of gratitude and reliance. It was clear that she could depend on him, even in unpredictable circumstances. Later, in a quieter moment, they walked along a terrace that overlooked Vera's glowing lakes. The night was peaceful, and the reflections of the city lights danced across the water's surface. Lyria spoke softly, almost to herself. "I do not understand humans fully, Kale. They are often underestimated, yet some possess qualities I cannot ignore." Kale's gaze remained steady. "Strength is not always in grandeur or display. Sometimes it is in patience, care, and reliability." She considered his words. Over the past days, she had seen countless displays of skill, intelligence, and diplomacy from both humans and other beings. Yet Kale's quiet support, consistent judgment, and selfless dedication had created a sense of trust and stability that no dramatic action could match. Slowly, she began to recognize the difference between admiration for power and respect for unwavering character. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, exploring cultural practices, trade customs, and personal anecdotes. Lyria realized that Kale possessed knowledge and insight far beyond what one would expect from a humble human trader. His understanding of people, systems, and practical solutions was impressive, yet he spoke without arrogance, always with consideration and humility. Over the following days, Kale continued to demonstrate his competence and loyalty. He assisted with a minor logistical crisis, helped Lyria navigate diplomatic etiquette, and ensured that every interaction reflected positively on her. Lyria found herself observing him more closely, noting not only what he did, but how he did it, with care, thoughtfulness, and a quiet commitment that seemed almost endless. One afternoon, as they prepared to leave Vera, Lyria and Kale walked along the transport docks. Ships of various designs and origins moved in coordinated patterns, and the hum of engines filled the air. Lyria paused, reflecting on the past week. "Kale," she began, "I cannot fully explain why, but your presence changes how I approach my work. I feel more confident, more assured, and less burdened by uncertainty." Kale responded with gentle sincerity. "I am glad I can help. That is all I seek, to make things smoother, safer, and better when possible." She looked at him, realizing that his dedication was not a fleeting act, but a pattern that had likely endured for much longer than she had known. A sense of curiosity mixed with admiration arose within her. Who was this human, and why had he devoted so much attention to her well-being? The questions lingered, but there was no sense of discomfort, only a growing awareness that Kale was extraordinary in ways that could not be measured by titles, wealth, or status. As they boarded their shuttle to leave Vera, Lyria felt a subtle change in her perception. Humans, once underestimated in her mind, had revealed a capacity for loyalty, patience, and ingenuity that was remarkable. And Kale, the humble human who had quietly supported her journey, was at the center of this realization. She did not yet know the full extent of his feelings, nor the decade he had spent admiring her from afar, but she began to sense that their connection was deeper than she had anticipated. Kale, seated quietly beside her, allowed himself a small moment of reflection. The journey had been successful, the negotiations fruitful, and Lyria had begun to notice the qualities he had quietly cultivated over 10 years. He had remained patient, avoided rushing emotions, and focused instead on proving his value through actions. Now he could see the beginnings of awareness in Lyria, a recognition of his capability, trustworthiness, and steadfastness. As the shuttle lifted from Vera and entered the dark expanse of space, both human and alien felt a sense of quiet anticipation. Their journey together was only beginning, and yet the foundation of trust, respect, and unspoken understanding had been firmly established. Kale's decade-long patience had borne fruit in ways that were subtle but profound, and Lyria's perception of him, and of humanity, was beginning to shift in ways that could alter the course of their shared future. The stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, distant and brilliant, and in that vast expanse, a humble human and an extraordinary alien woman shared a quiet bond. It was not yet love openly declared, but it was a connection built on trust, support, and the enduring strength of character. And in the galaxy's vastness, such connections were rarer and more powerful than any weapon, title, or treasure. The shuttle glided smoothly through the star-speckled void, carrying Lyria and Kale toward the next system on their diplomatic tour. The journey was long, but quiet moments allowed both of them to reflect on the weeks they had spent together. Lyria found herself thinking about the human's actions, small yet impactful gestures that had eased her responsibilities and ensured her safety at every step. Each time she recalled one of his interventions, a subtle warmth grew in her chest, though she did not yet fully recognize it as more than respect and curiosity. Kale, seated beside her, watched the stars drift past with a calm attention. He had spent 10 years quietly admiring Lyria, ensuring her well-being, and now he felt that their bond was beginning to strengthen in ways he had long hoped for. He did not speak much, understanding that Lyria needed space to process her experiences, yet every small action he took was deliberate, meant to support and protect her without drawing attention. As they approached the planet Eris, Lyria prepared for her next meeting, a council of planetary leaders discussing environmental resource management. The planet's surface was a brilliant mix of lush forests and sparkling lakes, a stark contrast to the metallic cityscapes of previous worlds. Lyria's mission here was delicate, requiring careful negotiation and an understanding of local customs. Kale assisted with the arrangements, quietly coordinating schedules, verifying transport, and ensuring her documents were complete and accurate. The council chambers were impressive, circular in design with translucent walls that offered panoramic views of the planet below. Delegates from multiple star systems were already present, exchanging greetings in their diverse languages. Lyria entered confidently, her presence commanding attention, while Kale moved discreetly to a position where he could observe and intervene if necessary. A moment of tension arose when a representative questioned Lyria's proposed environmental policy, suggesting that it favored her home planet over others. Lyria paused, considering the objection carefully. Kale noticed a subtle error in the representative's data, a minor miscalculation that could mislead the council. He leaned slightly closer to her and whispered, "The figures for your proposal are correct. Perhaps you could rephrase your explanation to highlight balance and fairness." Lyria followed his suggestion, and the council's mood shifted immediately, with delegates nodding in understanding. After the meeting, Lyria found herself walking along the balcony overlooking Eris's forests. She did not speak at first, simply absorbing the natural beauty and reflecting on the council session. Kale joined her silently, respectful of her space. After a few moments, she spoke softly, "You have an uncanny ability to notice what others miss. It is remarkable, Kale." He inclined his head modestly. "I observe carefully. Attention to detail can prevent mistakes and smooth interactions." "That is all I strive for." Lyria studied him, noticing the quiet consistency in his actions. There was no desire for praise, no attempt to impress, only a steady, genuine care that she found increasingly rare and valuable. Their days on Eris passed in a rhythm of meetings, negotiations, and site visits. Kale continued to assist in ways that were almost invisible to others, but profoundly impactful for Lyria. He guided her through complex cultural protocols, subtly advised her on potential misunderstandings, and ensured her schedule allowed moments of rest. Lyria began to realize that she had come to depend on him, not only for practical assistance, but also for emotional reassurance. His calm presence allowed her to face challenges with greater confidence. One afternoon, while exploring the planet's central marketplace, Lyria paused to admire a collection of intricate crystalline sculptures. Merchants greeted her warmly, recognizing her status, while Kale observed the surroundings, ensuring no one disturbed her. A young alien child approached her, curious and shy, holding a small crystal that seemed to resonate with her energy. Lyria knelt, examining the crystal with interest. Kale stayed near, smiling quietly at the simple yet meaningful interaction. "This crystal is said to bring clarity," the child explained. Lyria nodded, offering a gentle smile. "It is beautiful. Thank you for showing it to me." The child beamed and ran off, leaving Lyria with the crystal in her hand. She turned to Kale, holding it out. "I believe it is a reminder, Kale. Sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest meaning." Kale accepted it, understanding the symbolic gesture without need for explanation. As evening approached, Lyria and Kale returned to their accommodations, a serene residence overlooking the planet's luminous lakes. Lyria reflected on her experiences, recognizing the growing importance of the human who had silently supported her. She began to sense a pattern in his behavior, a decade-long devotion that had remained consistent, unwavering, and selfless. Yet she still did not know the full extent of his feelings, nor did she imagine that he had loved her in secret for 10 years. During a quiet moment on the balcony, Lyria asked, "Kale, why do you continue to support me so diligently? Surely your own life and interests are important." Kale's expression remained gentle. "Your work affects many. I choose to assist because I can. I care for your well-being, and I have learned that small actions can make significant differences." His words were simple, yet they carried the weight of truth and sincerity. Lyria felt a flicker of something unfamiliar, a mixture of admiration, gratitude, and a growing curiosity about the man who had devoted himself so completely to her. The following day brought an unexpected challenge. A minor technical malfunction in her shuttle threatened to delay her journey to the next system. While engineers worked to resolve the issue, Kale quietly assessed the problem, suggesting adjustments that ensured a faster and safer repair. Lyria watched him, impressed once more by his practical intelligence and foresight. She began to realize that his skills extended far beyond observation. He could actively solve problems with calm precision, a rare combination that set him apart from others she had encountered. During their time on Eris, moments of reflection allowed Lyria to observe Kale more closely. She noticed how he anticipated her needs, how he balanced humility with competence, and how he acted without seeking recognition or reward. These qualities, she realized, were extraordinary in their quietness. They were the kind of traits that built lasting trust, loyalty, and respect. In one particularly serene evening, Lyria and Kale watched the reflection of the twin moons in the planet's crystal-clear lakes. The soft glow bathed their surroundings in gentle light, creating a sense of peace and tranquility. Lyria spoke softly. "I did not expect a human to possess such steadiness, intelligence, and dedication. You are remarkable, Kale." He looked at her, a subtle warmth in his gaze. "I only strive to do what is right, to support when possible, and to care quietly. That is all I know." She smiled faintly, realizing that his actions over the past weeks, and perhaps even longer, had created a profound impact on her life. She could feel a shift in her perception, an emerging recognition that humans could embody qualities that rivaled even the most esteemed alien figures she had known. Kale's quiet devotion and unwavering support had begun to shape her understanding of loyalty, trust, and courage in subtle but meaningful ways. As their departure from Aris approached, Lyria reflected on the past days. She realized that Kale had become indispensable, not because he demanded attention or recognition, but because his presence allowed her to navigate challenges with confidence. His patience, foresight, and unwavering commitment had created a foundation of trust and respect that she could rely upon. During their final evening, Lyria and Kale stood on the balcony one last time, watching the gentle ripples on the lake below. "Kale," she said softly, "I do not know if you understand how much your presence means to me. You have made my journey easier, my work smoother, and my days more secure. I am grateful." Kale inclined his head humbly. "I am glad to be of help. That is all I seek, to support and ensure that your efforts succeed." His honesty and simplicity resonated with her. She could sense the sincerity behind his words, the depth of character that had guided him through years of quiet devotion. As the shuttle prepared for departure, Lyria felt a subtle but undeniable bond forming between herself and the humble human who had silently influenced her life. She did not yet know that he had loved her for 10 years, nor did she imagine the patience and care he had cultivated over that time. Yet she felt a growing awareness that Kale was unlike anyone she had ever met, someone whose steadfast loyalty, intelligence, and humility had begun to leave a lasting imprint on her heart. The stars stretched endlessly outside the shuttle's viewport, distant and brilliant. Within that vast expanse, a humble human and an extraordinary alien woman shared a quiet connection, one built on trust, support, and the enduring power of unseen care. And though the story of their hearts had not yet been fully revealed, the foundation was strong, promising that when the time came, their bond would flourish in ways both profound and transformative. The journey to the wedding planet was quiet, yet charged with anticipation. Lyria had agreed to marry a distinguished diplomat from her people, a union designed to strengthen alliances and secure political stability. No one yet knew of Kale's deep, decade-long affection for her. Even he had kept his emotions hidden, choosing instead to support and protect her in every possible way. As the shuttle approached the luminous surface of the planet, Kale's heart felt a mixture of nervousness and quiet hope. The wedding preparations were grand, reflecting the elegance and tradition of Lyria's culture. Crystal archways lined the ceremonial hall, and the air shimmered with floating lights and delicate music. Delegates and nobles from dozens of star systems gathered, their attention focused on the alien bride and her chosen partner. Lyria moved with her usual grace, yet there was a hint of fatigue in her movements. The weight of expectation pressed on her shoulders, and Kale quietly ensured that every detail of her journey to the hall was smooth and untroubled. As the ceremony began, Kale observed from the sidelines, careful to remain discreet yet ready to assist if needed. Lyria's eyes scanned the room, noting the presence of friends, allies, and family. She moved with confidence, but Kale could sense her subtle tension. He stayed near, ready to intervene silently if any logistical or minor disturbances arose, as he had done countless times over the years. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking in a melodic tone that resonated through the hall. Lyria's partner approached, a figure of noble bearing, and the formal proceedings unfolded with precision and elegance. Lyria's expression was composed, yet Kale could sense her thoughts drifting briefly, as if she were reflecting on the people who had supported her throughout her life, friends, mentors, and perhaps even the quiet human who had always stood by her side. When it came time to exchange vows, Lyria paused. She looked at her partner, yet her eyes seemed to flicker toward Kale, standing humbly at the side. Memories of the past years, the small gestures, the guidance, the protection, and the unspoken care flooded her mind. She realized that she had relied on him in ways she had never acknowledged, and that his presence had shaped her journey more than anyone else. Kale, sensing her hesitation, remained calm. He did not speak, yet his eyes conveyed unwavering support, patience, and understanding. His quiet strength had been evident throughout her life, and now, in this critical moment, it shone more clearly than ever. Lyria's heart raced as she considered the depth of his loyalty, his intelligence, and the selfless devotion he had shown for 10 years. A sudden wave of clarity washed over her. She realized that her feelings had grown beyond respect and admiration. Kale had become indispensable, not because of his skills alone, but because of the genuine care and quiet love he had consistently offered. She understood that the bond she shared with him was unique, built on years of trust, patience, and unwavering support. Before she could continue with the formal vows, Lyria made a subtle gesture, signaling for a brief pause. The officiant, sensing her hesitation, allowed a moment for reflection. Lyria stepped forward, walking with grace toward Kale. The crowd watched in silence, intrigued by the unexpected movement. Kale's heart leapt, yet he remained composed, aware that this moment could change everything. Lyria reached Kale, her eyes shining with unshed emotion. "Kale," she said softly, her voice carrying both certainty and vulnerability, "for 10 years you have supported me, guided me, and cared for me without ever seeking recognition. I have watched, I have relied on you, and I have come to understand the depth of your devotion. I cannot imagine my life without you." The hall fell into stunned silence. Delegates and nobles whispered in surprise, realizing the significance of her words. Kale felt a mixture of disbelief and overwhelming joy. He had hoped for this acknowledgement for a decade, yet the reality surpassed even his most careful expectations. His quiet dedication, his patience, and his love had been recognized and returned. Without hesitation, Kale took her hands in his own. "Lyria, I have loved you quietly for 10 years. Every action, every moment of support was done because I wished to see you succeed and be safe. I have waited patiently, hoping for a day like this when you might see me as more than a humble companion." His voice was calm, yet filled with sincerity and emotion. Tears glimmered in Lyria's eyes as she nodded. "I see you now, Kale. Not just your actions, but the heart behind them. I choose you, not because of wealth, status, or influence, but because of who you are, steadfast, caring, and true. I choose you because you have loved me quietly, selflessly, and consistently." A collective gasp of awe swept through the room. Delegates, nobles, and guests realized that an unprecedented declaration had been made. A human had earned the heart of one of the galaxy's most esteemed alien figures. The significance of this moment transcended titles, alliances, and politics. It was a triumph of character, loyalty, and enduring love. The officiant, understanding the sincerity of the moment, smiled and allowed the ceremony to continue in this new light. Lyria and Kale exchanged vows of their own, simple yet profound, speaking of trust, care, and enduring companionship. The hall resonated with the authenticity of their words, a testament to a bond built over 10 years of unseen dedication and patient love. When the ceremony concluded, applause and celebration filled the hall. Delegates and guests recognized the remarkable story unfolding before them. A humble human, steadfast and true, had won the heart of an extraordinary alien woman. Lyria's family and friends, initially surprised, soon joined in the celebration, acknowledging the genuine connection between the two. As the festivities continued, Lyria and Kale moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and sharing quiet moments of laughter and conversation. The bond they had cultivated in silence over the years now shone openly, a beacon of patience, loyalty, and heartfelt connection. Each guest sensed the authenticity of their love, a rare and precious occurrence in a galaxy often defined by politics, ambition, and fleeting alliances. Later, as the evening grew quiet and the stars sparkled above, Lyria and Kale stood together on a balcony overlooking the planet. The soft glow of ceremonial lights reflected in their eyes as they took a moment to simply be present with one another. Lyria leaned slightly toward Kale, feeling the warmth of his presence, and Kale, in turn, held her hands gently, cherishing the fulfillment of a decade-long dream. "I never thought a day like this could come," Kale said softly, his voice filled with quiet joy. "I have loved you for 10 years, and now I can share that love openly." Lyria smiled, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. "And I have come to understand it, Kale. Your patience, your care, your unwavering dedication, they have shaped my life. I choose to walk forward with you, not just today, but every day." The stars above seemed to shine brighter in reflection of their bond. In a galaxy filled with complexity, uncertainty, and vast distances, Kale and Lyria had discovered something rare and enduring, a connection rooted in trust, loyalty, and selfless love. Their story was not defined by grandiose power or wealth, but by the quiet, steadfast strength of character, a testament to the human spirit and the profound impact one individual can have on the life of another. The following days were filled with celebration and recognition, yet Kale and Lyria found joy in the simplest moments, walking together through the ceremonial gardens, sharing quiet conversations under the twin moons, and laughing at small, ordinary joys. Their relationship, long built on trust and unseen support, now flourished openly, strengthened by the shared history of patience, care, and enduring affection. Even in a galaxy of countless beings, Kale's humble humanity had proven exceptional. His quiet actions, guided by love and unwavering integrity, had earned the admiration and heart of one of the most extraordinary figures he could imagine. And Lyria, once unaware of the depth of his devotion, now understood fully the meaning of steadfast loyalty, patience, and selfless love. In the soft glow of the planet's morning light, as the city below began to stir, Kale and Lyria stood side by side, looking out at the horizon. The future stretched before them, filled with possibilities, adventures, and challenges, yet they faced it together, united by a bond built over 10 years of quiet care and unwavering devotion. "I never imagined this day would come," Lyria whispered, leaning slightly into him. "It has," Kale replied softly, "and it is only the beginning." In that moment, above a planet of light and life, the humble human and the extraordinary alien woman shared a silent promise, a promise of partnership, trust, and enduring love. Across the galaxy, their story would be remembered not for grandeur or politics, but for the quiet, steadfast power of a heart devoted to another. It was a testament to patience, humility, and the extraordinary strength of humanity in its simplest, truest form. And so, the story of Kale and Lyria reached its beginning anew, a life together, forged in trust, care, and the quiet magic of enduring love, proving that in a galaxy vast and unpredictable, the heart of a humble human could inspire wonder, admiration, and a love that transcended time, distance, and expectation.